Welcome back, Dream Theater fans. It's 6 o'clock on a Christmas morning. Do you know where John Myung is? He's probably out being a ragamuffin. He's probably out being a miscreant. He's probably causing trouble in John Petrucci's abode. Now today we are going to embark on a brand new Let's Learn Guitar series. We're going to attack Dream Theater's Awake. Every single note, every single time change. We have more things to go over than you could possibly imagine. So, with that said, we're going to hop into track number 1, 6 o'clock on a Christmas morning, and we're going to make sure that John Myung doesn't get himself into any more trouble than it's worth. Let's get on into it. 6 o'clock begins with a classic drum intro that I think everybody is familiar with if you're coming onto this channel. Now, it starts off with some triplets, right? And then we hit into a rhythm that sort of signifies what's going to happen later. So if you can learn the complexities and intricacies of this intro rhythm and the beat that Mike Portnoy is laying down, then the rest of the song is going to be a little bit easier to play for other instruments as well, namely the guitar. The only series of things you need to know for this drum part is this. 1 and 2, ah, ah, E. 1 and 2, ah, and E. 1 and 2, ah, E. 1 and 2, brr, brr, boom. If you get that down, everything's going to be fine. So after all that Mike Portnoy drum nonsense, we hit the keyboard intro. Now this is actually quite a complex introduction, as it has many different shifting chords. And the cool thing is he's playing power chords on the keyboard. So I'm going to do my best impression of Kevin Moore, and take a listen to it right here. Let's talk about the rhythm first. All that's really happening is the chords are being offset by only playing 3 notes on the second chord. So we start off like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and immediately shifts, right? Which then shifts into a grouping of 4 and then a grouping of 5 to even it out. This whole thing is in 4/4. It's just highly syncopated through 16th notes. And it's a very slow count as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Chord-wise, all we're doing is going between E, D, G, F, E, D, F, E flat, D flat, and then coming back up to E, D, G, G sharp, right? In the same rhythm, and then finishing off with this. E, D. Harmonically speaking, we have the 1 chord going down to the flat 7 chord. Okay, so nothing too crazy. We'll say that we're in the key of E for now. Then we're heading up to the flat 3, G, flat 2 on F, then to the 1, flat 7, and immediately hopping now to the flat 2, supposedly. Now, I'm going to say that the F at this point is a temporary modulation. So we're really going 1, flat 7, flat 6 as the actual proper function. Okay, so a temporary modulation to F minor. But then we come right back into the key of E minor again, so we got 1, flat 7, flat 3, major 3. Okay, so we're shifting to the key of E major temporarily. Coming back into E minor, 1, flat 7, and then we hit this chord. Now I'm going to say right off the bat, this is a crazy, crazy, crazy chord, and Kevin Moore is a crazy, crazy, crazy man for having played this, especially on the first song of the album. He doesn't even give you a chance to acclimate, doesn't give you a chance to even get used to what's going on before he pulls this kind of shit. Basically, what we have going on here is a type of A minor chord. More specifically, it's an A minor 7 with a sharp 5th. And yes, that does exist, and it's not really too dissonant of a chord. it just kind of makes you think, where the hell are we? What the hell are we getting ourselves into? Are we trapped in a mainframe computer from the 1990s? Sounds like it. Sounds like I'm playing Dig Dug on an old Atari. So here's what the chord sounds like all together, with all the notes played. So we have A, G, C, and F to make an A minor 7 with a sharp 5th. Very jazzy chord. You'll hear Steely Dan play a lot of chords like this, but then again, you'll also hear Keith Emerson of Emerson, Lake and Palmer play these kind of chords. So just goes to show you where the influences lie here. Now this A minor, I believe, acts as a subtonic, all right, a minor subtonic 7 to the new key center, which is going to be B minor, which we're going to go over next. Now all that's happening on this is we're playing a B sus2 at the 2nd fret, alright? We're rooted on the A string. We're barring the entire fret, so we're going to actually play the low E string as well. So we get that nice heavy crunch down at the bottom. You like that, don't you? So we're going like this. B sus2, we're going to do that 3 times, and then at the end, we're going to hop up to an E power chord. So we're going to go like this. So just pay attention to the rhythm there. You're muting on the downbeat and then hitting the accents on the ups. Okay, so you're basically just hitting a B on the bottom and a B and an E on the top. The first real riff of the song comes in after that section, and it's basically the chorus section of the song, but without any vocals, and also with a totally different drum groove through part of it as well. And it goes like this. We're playing power chords, but we're playing a very specific variety of power chord. We're actually playing an E and a D on the E, A, and D strings, respectively. We're on the 7th fret of the low E and A string, creating that perfect 4th on the bottom to give it a little extra chunk, just like we saw with that B sus chord. And we have our other finger on the 9th fret of the D string, alright? So this is just filling out the power chord. And in between we have an open E. So we have an E chord going to a D chord, and then we're hitting this, a perfect 4th, D and G. That's a G. That resembles a G chord. Now, on its face, if you just take the guitar in a vacuum, we're playing an E minor progression, right? 1 to flat 7, 1 to flat 7, flat 3, right? Because you have E, D, and G. And then we change the feel afterward with the same chords. Now you want to make sure you're getting that articulation down. So super chunky on the palm mutes, and then very loose on the second half to resemble the drums. Now that's not all that's going on here. I'm going to talk about the keyboard part that's on top, because we're going to do a little bit of foreshadowing here. The keyboard part is just a series of triads moving down. So what's happening here is an A triad, an E triad, an F sharp minor triad, and an E major triad. The nerve of Kevin Moore to play major chords on top of a minor guitar progression. This is pretty insane. So I would say this is bimodal. The guitar is playing an E minor riff, or a bluesy type of riff. We're adding the blues in there. That G power chord that's being played right here, that adds the blues element, right? Tell me that doesn't sound like blues right there. G to E. That's blues in a nutshell. And that's exactly what's happening to sort of counterbalance the happy melody on top, or I should say the happy harmonic progression. Happy harmonic progression. That should be a band name. Now what this keyboard part sets up is James LaBrie's vocal line. Now I'm convinced that James LaBrie wrote his vocal line to the keyboard part rather than the guitar, because I don't know how you'd come up with that otherwise. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Now let's hear how both of those parts jive together in the end. So after coming out of that first chorus riff, the keyboard plays on its own with this sort of like a G minor 7 sus 4 type of deal, right? And then the guitar comes in after this with these two chords. And then the same sort of deal, but it's an F sharp sus, a big time F sharp sus. F sharp sus 4 with a 7th on top. So that's some crazy stuff going on, and if you remember what I said about the drum groove in the beginning, this rhythm is going to be no problem for you, right? Boom! This section is also the introduction of the 6 o'clock on a Christmas morning part, right? That brutally Irish sounding dude, which everybody is familiar with if you're a fan of Dream Theater, and hopefully you are a fan of Dream Theater, otherwise I don't know what the hell you're doing here. That quote comes from a movie adaptation of a James Joyce novel titled The Dead. So if anybody wants to go see that, go ahead. You'll get a little bit more backstory to this song, even though none of the song is really about this, right? I think it's, maybe the relevance is in terms of Kevin Moore's not wanting to wake up. You know, it's 6 o'clock on a Christmas morning. And for what? Right? For what? What am I coming to rehearsal for? You know, I don't like these guys. I don't like the music we're playing. I think it stinks. You know, I feel like my ideas are better. You know, I don't know what he's thinking, but this is just, I'm just rambling here. Kevin Moore is probably a cool guy. He always seemed like one of the coolest guys in the band, actually, especially when he has his sunglasses on. But like I said, this is all rambling, man. We're just having fun. Now the verse comes in with a, actually the bass and the keyboard playing in unison together. And then the guitar joins in when the lyrics start. So here's the guitar riff as it starts off the verse. We're playing an E blues riff going through the whole thing in unison with John Myung. And we're going between really E and D. Just like that, right? In that rhythm. Coming down to B there. And then we're doing this fancy hammer-on section. So we're going from G, B, D, which is actually a G major triad, A, B, D, and then B flat, B, and D. That's just outlining the notes of the blues scale. That's all it is. Okay? Flat 3, 5, 4, 5, flat 5, 5. Very simple. And the flat 7, of course. The second time around we do this, just a slight change. Going between here, E and D, just like the first time. Then here we're going still with the hammer-ons and still syncopated. We're doing G, B, D, A, B, D, and then we're going B, D, E. We're bypassing the B flat this time around. I guess that's to give it a little bit of tonal finality before we get into the next section. Another point of interest about this verse, and actually verse 2 as well, is the keyboard plays a very sparse part. It goes like this. It's really just an E minor 9 with a hammer on. You're playing G, B, and F sharp. F sharp is the 9th, resolving to G, B, E. Just 12, 12, 12, right? And that's what's going on the keyboard with an organ patch. And it's just very, very, very subtle, just to add a little bit more dynamic to the section, but not stepping on the riff. The next section is sort of the first hook of the song, the first repetitive vocal line that occurs. I'll call this the pre-chorus because it remains the same each time. It's very simple, and it goes like this. So not a whole lot to say about that. We could break this up in two different sections. First, the chords, G to A. Very easy. Make sure you use those voicings though, and you do that 3 times. Now harmonically, all that's going on here is we have the flat 3rd and the major 4 for the E minor progression. Now I say this is an E minor because it eventually goes back to E every single time. But what's interesting about this is you can actually see it in a Dorian context, because the next lick that comes out has an F sharp and a C sharp involved with it. There's the C sharp. And the F sharp, of course, is there as well, because we're doing the E minor. You can also see this as being a 4-5 in the key of D, but just never going to D. But I don't like to look at it like that, because it clearly goes back to E every single time. So let's treat it for what it is. It's a Dorian mode. So coming out of that first pre-chorus, we are not greeted with a chorus. Instead, we are greeted with Kevin Moore's sick, twisted circus of a mind with this re-intro section. Now, I don't know if you noticed something, but there's a time change that happens right in the middle of that is not in the first part of the song. And I don't know whose idea it was to do something this egregious, but we're going to have to hold them accountable going forward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So a measure of 9/8. Just for the hell of it. But really it's just an extra couple notes added on the end of the phrase. So as long as you're in the know, you'll be fine with this. But you gotta be in the know, and you gotta deal with Kevin Moore's egregious attitude. Now, we're not out of crazy town just yet. John Petrucci, being influenced by the twisted, sick mind of Kevin Moore, has come up with his own carnival of ideas. So let's check out his part played on top of the second half of that re-intro. Now, breaking it down, it does follow the chords pretty much exactly until the very end. So we start off the first 4 notes playing on an E5. So this is just an E power chord stretched out. Just the notes E and B played in different spots. All picked, alternate picking. Then we slide down to a D, and we do an add 9, so we're stacking fifths. Continuing to pick through, okay, so no slide here, we're going, so that's just a 4th resolving to the perfect 5th, alright, so it's really not too crazy. And then we're coming down a G add 9, so we're doing the same thing with the D, but in the opposite direction. And then we slide up to G sharp to go right along with the chord. And we're coming up this shape. It's a G add 9 ascending, going up to the 5th and then to the 4th. We're actually hitting a 4th, which is kind of interesting, and then resolving it to the minor 3rd eventually. But when it's on that 3rd, it becomes the 5th of the E chord coming up next. So we're going to the root, to the 5th again, sliding into the D chord, which is, this is the 5th of the D chord, to the root, and then into the 9th, which, that's not too crazy. Petrucci was just looking for a note to play there to fill in the gaps. But then we hit this. That's fucked up. Not because it's so fast. Well, that's part of the reason why, but because of the chord it's on top. It's on top of that crazy A minor 7 with a sharp 5th. None of these notes have any business being together with that, right? He's playing more in like some altered Lydian mode on top of this. I don't even know what it is. I'm just going to call it dissonant. So we have an F sharp, an F, which is basically the major 6 and the flat 6 of the A D sharp, which is the sharp 4, and a C sharp, which is the major 3rd. We're supposed to be in a minor chord here, okay? And then it continues on to a B flat and a G sharp. Now a B flat is a flat 2, and then you have a G sharp, which is a major 7. You're not supposed to have that going on here, but lo and behold, here it is. So this is just dissonance beyond dissonance. And when dissonance is played really quickly, you can't really tell it's dissonant, so I guess that's why it works here and they're able to get away with it. But we're going to take a listen to both of those parts, and it's going to sound insane when they're isolated together. So check it out. So after that cacophony of nonsense, we continue into another verse where it's played exactly the same way and with the same orchestration. Then we hit the pre-chorus, which is also exactly the same, but after we play this run, we go right into the chorus riff from before, right? You recognize that? Now, remember when I said that James LaBrie's vocal melody follows Kevin Moore's piano part? Well, we're going to see that right here. So basically what we have is, Nobody walks through the door and memory flies out the window. It's totally in the key of E. So hilariously in the key of E. It's so simple. It's like this is like a folk song here, or a child's melody on top of something incredibly complex. But this is what makes it kind of cool, right? And then it just continues on to do the same sort of idea. So that just makes it abundantly clear how important simple melodies are when creating a hook or creating a chorus, right? Now let me play this real quickly along with what the keyboard chords are playing. I'm going to do a little chord melody here. So we have, Melody walks through the door and memory flies out the window. Nobody knows what they want till they finally let it all go. It's like Mary had a little lamb, but the lamb is destined for the slaughter. Following chorus 1, we hit the B sus section from earlier, like this, right? Just like that. We play it 3 times. Bow, bow. Just like we played it earlier. And then we head into the organ solo where you have to play a little rhythm guitar underneath. Now it starts off by just playing the verse section. And then we head into this variation right here. So we're hitting the flat third, and then heading into that 1 to flat 7 blues generic thing. Then we do a little more pulling off and hammering on. And then we go to the tritone, just for a little bluesy dissonance there, right? But this isn't even blues. That's just straight up demonic. And then we come back into the hammer-ons and pull-offs. And then we do this. But this time, we don't hit the B flat. We just pretend it's the second half of the verse part. So you're just doing the 3, 7, 5, 7, and then 7, 5, 7. So no B flat involved. Don't you hit that B flat. Right out of that, we hit a pull-off. Right, so going from the 4th to the flat 3rd. And then we hit a 1 to flat 3. And then we go on to repeat it one more time, and we hit the first bridge section, which includes a clean guitar, the first clean guitar of the song. Before we head into the next section, let's give a nice round of applause for that beautiful, beautiful keyboard solo that Kevin Moore plays. I argue that he is the most tasteful keyboardist that Dream Theater ever had. That's right. I'm sorry, Jordan Rudess. You're great, but Kevin Moore could write a melody that would knock your ass out of the fucking water park. Whatever that means. Anyway, enough being silly. Let's get into the next section. So I'm going to break this up in half because the arrangement changes on the later half. So the first half goes like this. We're strumming a B minor 11th chord. Alright, so with that we have B, 1, the flat 7th, D, which is the flat 3rd, and an E, which is the 11th, and then a doubled E on top to give it a more glassy sound. So add a nice little vibrato to that too to give a little jizz on top. So technically our first chord would be the minor 1 chord. Now we're moving to the flat 7. So A sus 2, and we arpeggiate in that rhythm. Now we hit G add 9, some jizz, right? To A sus 2. Now Now that part is here to support both the vocal and this little synth line that Kevin Moore is playing on the top. So this synth line acts as a foreshadowing agent to the bridge riff, which I'm sure anybody that's listened to the song is very familiar with. It's when the WahWah comes in, right? It's a foreshadowing to that. Oh fuck, I dropped my pick. I better pick that up. So anyway, we gotta go like this. We're going from A to G, and then up to B, and then we're kind of coming down a pentatonic. It's almost like an E minor pentatonic starting on A. And then we're push beating back to A and coming through the pattern again. Then we're going like this. We always end on a different note each time. But we keep the familiarity of it by playing the same pattern and then ending on a different note to keep it interesting. So familiarity plus a subtle change equals interest. The second time we go like this. We end on the G. So these notes are outlining different parts of an E minor pentatonic scale, but over this chord progression in B minor we create some very interesting colors. So the first note that ends it is an A, which is the flat 7th of that B minor 11th chord. The second time it's G, which is the flat 7th of the A chord. The next time it's a B, which is the flat 3rd of the G. And the last time it plays a D, which is actually the sus4 or the 11th of the A. So it's creating an 11th sound over the A now. So this just goes to show you how masterful Kevin Moore is. An incredible keyboard player. Now the next half of the bridge we get a little more active on the guitar part, alright? So a little more rhythmic. Now remember, from the intro, that drum groove, that rhythm that I talked about, the 1 and 2, E, 1 and 2, and E. We're going to be playing that on the guitar, so listen closely for that when it's going through. Check it out. See what I mean about that drum groove and about that rhythm? This is what Dream Theater often did during the 90s. They had a lot of conceptual continuity laced through their songs, and it really added to the depth of her compositions. So going through the chord progression, we have B minor, which is 1, right? And then we're going to G add 9, which is the flat 6, so we're changing the order around a little bit. We're not going B, A, G, or bag. We're going B, G, A. Now here, we're adding a little flair here. We're adding the open E on top of the G chord. You know what that creates? A 6-9, a 69. We talked about how Dream Theater loves 69s, and I don't really want to go too far into detail with that. Let's move on. We go to an A sus2, back to the 1 chord as an 11th, but this time at the 2nd fret of the A string. So that one's a little more familiar than the other one. And then we shift it up because of course we can't keep it the same. We have ADD here, or John Petrucci's version of ADD. We come up to the 9th and the 11th fret of the D and the G to play another version of a B11 chord like this. So that's just the 16th note run up and down that arpeggio, right? And utilizing the sounds of the open B and E string, which is also very common of these early Dream Theater albums. Now this section also marks the introduction to the WahWah guitar section that comes in after. Now I'm not going to show you how to play this until we get to the next section, but just listen to how the different parts interact with one another. Right? We have a B minor section, but we're in essence playing an E minor type of riff on top with a soft synth sound and the bass also playing it in unison. So check this out. That's friggin' awesome, right? Now it's our turn to learn how to play it because John Petrucci wants to join in on the fun. Alright, now this section, the bass player, John Myung, actually shifts back to the verse. So we're playing that bridge part that John Myung and Kevin Moore were just playing before on top of the verse riff, which I find to be pretty incredible. So let's look at this. So we're basically just going like this. We're doing a flat third resolution from the fourth, and then going down to the one. And we're doing like a little hemiola in that as well, almost as if we're in like a 7 type of feel. 1, 2, or 5, 7, 1, 2, or 5, 7. And then we're coming up here, right, doing the same sort of idea, but we're hitting that flat 5 to the 5. So this is all blues. Just play all these notes on top of an E and you'll see what I mean. And then we do this. Now that's just chromaticism from heck, from fucking hell. We're going from the 5th to the 7th fret, and then right into the 6th fret. So we're actually hitting the major third, which is actually allowed in the blues, believe it or not. You can hit the minor and the major third together, and it actually sounds pretty frickin' cool. And then we go back into the 7th fret, and then to that flat 5th once again to come down to the minor third. So everything is centered around the root, the minor third, and really the flat 5th. The flat 5th is really utilized a lot in this section. We follow that up with this. Same exact thing, and then we do this. Super bluesy, oh my god. Look at that. It's almost like Cowboys from Hell. And then we scale down into an F sharp. We continue moving through that by a shift in position, where we're going to the 7th fret with the pointer finger, and then we're doing a pull off. You're going right down the E blues scale just without hitting the perfect 5th. Then we're going like this. So that's all just E minor blues stuff as well, just with a little extra chromaticism. That's why this can sound kind of confusing. It also sounds like a tub of bees is being poured into your ear before your grandma comes over. The last part is probably the coolest sounding section because it has the most exotic flavor to it. We're messing around with the flat 5th here, going from the A to a B flat, then to the flat 3rd, and then we're resolving the F sharp to the G. So that's a 9th, resolving into the chord tone. And then we go immediately into this, resolving the flat 5th to the 5th now. So a lot of different motions here, a lot of half-step motions in different places. Right into this. So we're messing around with basically a flat 7 arpeggio, but we're just hitting the root and the flat 3rd. Then we go back to the root again, up a tritone, and then right back into a regular pentatonic scale. Well, that's kind of interesting, huh? And then we do the slide down, Cowboys from Hell style. Now here we're hitting a C sharp. It's almost as if we're outlining an A chord, coming down to a G. And of course, if we have a C sharp, which is a natural 6th, in an E scale, it must be the Dorian mode. Always remember that. So we just mix together the blues scale, the natural minor scale, and the Dorian mode all at the same time. So kudos. And they don't waste the potential of this, right? Now, it may seem as if this riff only happens one time because the guitar, when it comes in, is so loud and abrasive and in your face, and it's the only thing going on as well. And the drums, you know, lend a lot to this section too. The section before it had it happening, you just probably didn't realize it, and the section after it also has it occurring. It just goes to show you how wonderfully composed this song actually is. So please, everybody go re-listen to 6 o'clock after you watch this video, and you're going to see what I mean. Verse 3 of 6 o'clock is made up of a majority of recycled parts. John Myung continues to play the bass line of the verse from verse 1 and verse 2. Kevin Moore is still stuck on the riff that was happening earlier, right? The fancy one. He's playing that on top of there. Listen closely, you'll hear it. It's mixed very quietly, and the synth pad he's using is tastefully soft, right? Just like the first time he introduced it. But the only part that changes is John Petrucci's guitar part, which goes like this. Now that should sound familiar, because the keyboard played that earlier. All right, we're doing that that sort of E minor 9 resolution, but this time on the guitar. Just with some like Hendrix type stuff in between. So basically all we're doing is we're doing the 9th, a hammer-on from the 9th to the 11th. Right down there, that signifies the E minor 9, and that mirrors the keyboard part that happened before. And then in between we're just hitting these E octaves. Right, so nice and syncopated, and then we're hitting that top of the Hendrix chord, which is a D and a G, minor 7th and the flat 3rd, very bluesy sounding, brutally bluesy sounding. And we go on to do it again, but this time we go. So here we're just messing around with some perfect fourths in the key, nothing crazy. We do it again, and then we come in for the last part of that lick. How cool is that? We go last part, and we do the last one here. So the guitar is managing 2 different parts during this section, and it's doing the keyboard from earlier in the song, and it's also tagging along with the end of that riff from just before that Kevin Moore is continuing to play on the top of this verse, right? So as long as you've learned it properly from before, you won't have any problems, and this won't catch you by surprise. So I would say putting all that together, those 3 parts, will be advantageous to our analytical perspective. So getting into the last section of vocals, we've just gone past another pre-chorus, another chorus, and we're into this chorus tag section that goes like this. It's just a very simple chord progression, okay? So first, simplistic chord progression of the whole thing, right? We're hitting a D power chord, almost AC/DC style, right? Just at the 2nd and 3rd fret of the G and the B, to an A, AC/DC style as well, quick cutting out like that. And then down to an E, low part, and then the E and the B string on top. Does that twice, and then we head to these shapes. This is almost like a D chord, like a D power chord, but with the 4th on the bottom. That's kind of weird, right? Or the 5th, I should say, on the bottom. Then going up to the same thing, but on E, and then we hit an A chord to a E chord. So really D, E, A, E. Now what makes this interesting is what John Myung is playing on the bottom. he's playing a B on the bottom of that. So basically he's creating the sound of a B minor 7th chord. Then he's moving up to a C sharp, creating the sound of a C sharp minor 7th chord. And then on top of the A, he's hitting an F sharp to create an F sharp minor 7th. Right? So this is very interesting. So the bass makes it sound like this. So that's pretty cool. Let's hear what it actually sounds like with a bass though. Alright, so we're not out of the woods yet, but we are on the first part of the outro, which is actually a rehash of an old keyboard idea that we heard way at the beginning of the song. And that goes like this on the guitar this time. So pocket is key with this little section. Going between a B minor and an E chord basically. And we're in a B minor pentatonic type of thing and just working on pull-offs here while hitting 2 strings at the same time. And then coming all the way down the arpeggio back down to the low string. So we're covering the entire basis here. Now that's probably the trickiest part. When we hit that E power chord on the 9th fret, we have to keep our pointer finger here so we can pull off from the ring and then bring the ring down to the 9th fret of the A string in between. And then we get to start it over again. And then of course we have a variation at the very end. So basically all that's happening is we're sliding into a B power chord, right? Just a high version of it, going to a D power chord, to an E, and then back to a B. So it's like a 1, flat 3, 4, back to 1. And Kevin Moore, I believe, is following that as well. And then that leads into the second part of the outro, which is this little guitar lead that we're going to dissect. Now the last guitar lead, or you can even call it the solo, quote unquote, but it's awfully short for a solo. It's incredible, this song really doesn't have a proper guitar solo, it just has this legato type of lick at the ending here. Now I have this to say about this lick. It's currently 3:10 in the morning right now on St. Patrick's Day, and it's very fitting because this, it sounds very Irish. It's like an inverted Irish jig, just like in Learning to Live. If you haven't watched my Learning to Live video, you should go back and do that. There's an insane Irish jig going on there. The chord underneath is a G sharp 7 sus, okay? So you're getting that sound. Now on top of this, we're starting off as if you're on the major 3rd, which we are, and we're coming down to the 9th, alright? Now we want all legato. And then we're going to hit the B string like this. Okay, so coming down the G sharp major scale properly. But the problem is, we have some more bimodal stuff going on here, because we have a flat 7 in the chord. Right there. But we're not hitting that note, we're hitting that note. So John Petrucci is once again getting involved in Kevin Moore's mischief here. But it does sound good because it happens so quickly. That's why he's able to get away with it. So we're going like this. And then we're doing a trill into the 5th fret. So that's going down to the major 3rd again. And then we're doing this. That's pretty cool, right? That's just root 9, root, flat 7, right? Then we want to slide into that note, which is a major 6 resolving to the 5th. And then we hit the 2nd to the root, And then we hit the same pattern, sliding up. So those are the same notes, just played in 2 different octaves. And then we do this super fast pickup, just like that. Now that's just going up the, basically that same scale, but we're actually landing on the flat 7 this time. So whereas before we were hitting the natural 7th, we're hitting the flat 7th up top. And that could have been done deliberately, you know, accent the flat 7 on the top, why not? And then we continue to do the spastic picking line, right? Now that's just going through a, like a G sharp major to the sus 4 to the 5th, and then down the scale. Beautiful. Now keep this in mind. We're hitting a 6-note phrase, okay? So we're playing 6 notes at a clip, but in 16th notes. Proper 16th notes. These aren't triplets, alright? These are true 16th notes. Now, they continue to go over the bar, right? So it's going to offset on the upbeat and the downbeat of the following phrase, right? So you start on the downbeat, the second one is going to be on the upbeat, the next one is going to be on the downbeat, so on and so forth, until we end it, of course. So down, up, down, down, right? So down, up, down, down. And we take the same pattern, and this is the ending of the song, by the way, so this is the big finale, don't fuck it up. We're taking the same exact thing, same over the bar 16th notes, just down at the 7th fret of the B string. You're doing the exact same thing, but when you finally end it, you're actually ending on the of the 16th note pattern. So you're ending on like the most upbeat of upbeats that you can possibly end on. And the chords follow suit as well behind it. We have these chords and notes that don't completely line up, but that kind of adds to the excitement factor, and that's part of what drew me into this band to begin with. So let's just take a listen to this final section. You're going to hear both guitars ping-ponging and battling each other back and forth. Check it. That's 6 o'clock on a Christmas morning to you too. If you guys like this video, please subscribe to the channel. You gotta like the video. You gotta comment on the video. You gotta leave 3 comments on the video. If you don't leave comments, the YouTube algorithm just ignores your video. It doesn't show it to people. And I think that these videos are very valuable to everybody, including people who don't play guitar at all. You should show that to those people too. You can also further support the channel by going to www.subscribestar.com/RomanOva Music, where you can contribute as little as $1 a month. $1 a month for this kind of content. If everybody chipped in $1 that watched this shit, you know, I wouldn't have to do any other kind of work, right? You can also go to my website, RomanOvamusic.com, and you can further, you know, check out all my stuff. I got all my original music up there. And you can book lessons, you know, if you're interested in one-on-one training. There's also a PayPal tip jar that you can fancy as well. With that all said, thank you for coming along this journey. 6 o'clock on a Christmas morning is now over. It's now 3:21 a.m. on St. Patrick's Day. I'm going to go to St. Patrick's Cathedral and pop the bunion on my foot. And that's how things are going to roll. So stick around for the next episode. If you're familiar with the album, you're going to know exactly what song it is. I'm not going to tell you what song it is. All I'm going to say is we're going to be trapped in some kind of silk woven thing that probably a giant spider has created. It's going to be terrifying. It's going to be awful. And everyone's going to hate it. And I'll see you on that on the next one there.